Welcome back for another watercolor demo. This time we're actually going to use watercolor paper so that you can see the difference between them. Today we are painting the aloe plant, so this might be for another time, but we're going to be doing this one, and we're freehand painting, so we're not going to draw it beforehand. So let's go ahead and get started. So make sure you have your paper, your palette, a paintbrush, and some water. I also like to have a paper towel handy to blot some spots if I need to. So we're gonna start with the front areas and then we'll eventually move on to the back. You don't wanna work right next to one another, so I like to work on one and then skip to another one, because if you work right next to one another, they're gonna fade together and we don't want that to happen. A drop of water in each color. And we're gonna start with a nice green. I'm making a pretty large puddle so we can keep staying with it. All right, so we're gonna start right here on the side. And we're gonna do a curve, but it's gonna be a bit of a wavy curve because the plants are a little prickly on the sides. And we're keeping it super light to start. So start with the edge and then just fade it into the inside. And you can keep a little white in here too if you want. So that's gonna be our first one. And then we're gonna skip a little section and move on to the middle one. So a little wavy here and there. Got some little pricks coming off of it, and it's gonna go really tall and pointy. And then it's coming back together. So for the middle one here, we're gonna make the middle of this leaf kind of a bit darker too. So we're gonna build the color up. So make a line down the middle and then you can fade them. All right, and we're gonna do one more that comes out to the side and gets kind of cropped off. So we're getting really close, but we're not touching. All right, so now we can move back to this section while those have a little more time to dry. So I'm just getting a little more pigment because the front ones are gonna be the lighter ones and then we get darker and darker as we go back. So this one, I'm gonna start really close, but I'm not gonna touch it. Right, and we can do the next one. And I'm gonna fade this top out. And then one more, I think, back here. Maybe we can fit two. So we're starting on the edges and just fading them in, but be really careful not to touch the one next to it until it's completely dry. So let's start from the back ones and make them really, really dark. So in order to get a nice dark, dark green, we're gonna add a little bit of orange. And you can see how much darker that gets. So we're gonna start at the very tip up here. Be careful not to put your hand on anything wet. So I think the middle one might be dry, so we can get right up next to the edge. And I like to have, while it's still wet, put a few dots in there because they do have little areas that are raised. And we'll keep a few little highlights in there, the white areas. All right, and we'll go ahead and do this for the other back one. I'm gonna move this over. And I'm gonna make some more areas that kind of stick out. And it's good to have like variations in one leaf of different colors, because that's also a little more realistic than just having one solid color. There's so many different greens throughout it. So start with the edges and just keep blending. We'll add a little yellow in there too for the lighter ones. So try to mix different greens, mix some oranges in them, some yellows, even some blues. Let's see how many different greens we can get in one picture. So I'm just blending it in just a little with water on my brush. So after I have one good layer of color, then I can do the fun part with the dots. So I'm gonna take a little yellow right here and just do a few that come in here. All right, and we'll do, I think I want to make this one a little more bluish tinted. So we'll add some more green to this pile and then a touch of blue. I'm gonna make it really dark at the bottom where it goes behind. Maybe add in a little bit of another green. All right, and we'll move on to our small one back here. I think I'll stay with the same colors, and then finally our big middle one. Maybe at the bottom it's a little darker. So just kind of imagine if you were to see this plant in real life, where would your shadows be? If they're overlapping, they would definitely be behind one another. If this one's in the front, this is definitely the lighter one. Getting some texture in here. So have fun and experiment with this, and you can kind of see the different textures that the watercolor ends up making in the end too. So there we go. See you guys next time.